All right. Welcome into the Questionable Podcast. Monday night. You got Scotty Questions here with Miko. What's good, man?
What is going on, man?
Man, a lot is going on.
A whole lot.
What is not going on? It's going to be a great night tonight. Very excited. We also got Gian in the background. He'll be joining us in a minute, tending to a few things. But welcome, Gian. We'll talk to you soon.
Oh, hi.
Oh, there he
I
is.
unmuted myself for a very temporary. I have a brief window. So hello.
Hello.
I'm here.
All right. And yeah, thank you all for tuning in. We got a couple so far. Please don't forget to hit that like and follow and subscribe button on YouTube and or Twitch. We appreciate you guys tuning in and supporting the show. You know, we do this, for us, we have fun, but we really appreciate all your support, all your comments, feedback, and everything. So having said that,
yeah,
let's just jump right in. Miko, why don't you start us off? I mean, real quick, though, before, this is unbelievable. It's a good time to be a Lions fan. I think the fans deserve it. We've had a rough go, and for the first time in my life, I'm seeing something being built here. Now, we saw it last year, but wow, talk about some moves.
I think
very exciting.
I think it's safe to say that the rebuild feels like it's been fast tracked all of a sudden. Considering where we were year one after Dan Campbell getting here, dealing with a 3-13-1 record, obviously seeing some great improvement this past season. But if this offseason is any indication, I mean, Brad Holmes and company are really fast tracking the Lions onto a path of success. And I mean, again, it continues with so we did our show on Monday and we kind of talked about some of the free agency moves that the Lions made on the same day that tampering opened. So, we already talked about Cam Sutton. We talked about John Kaminsky, I believe, or if it wasn't John Kaminsky, it was definitely Alex Anzalone. And we talked about Isaiah Buggs.
Yep.
At this point, after that, the rest of the week was just hit after hit after hit.
I know. I mean, so many emergency pods for the Pride of Detroit too.
I was gonna say,
every minute.
I was so jealous. Again, we do our podcast once a week, so obviously, you're gonna get all of our thoughts on all of the moves that happened. But I mean, yeah, I was jealous because I was like, dude, I want to talk about every last one of these moves because it just was banger after banger after banger.
We're going to dig in tonight. And reminder, we are live tomorrow night with a special guest. So we are doing 2 this week. So buckle up.
But let's kick it off with, I mean, again, we're going to get into the meat and the potatoes of the signings. But I mean, I think we got to start off with the Lions retaining their own guys because, again, that is a big part of what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have built this team on is that, again, guys that show out, guys that, provide value to the team typically have a better chance of getting re-signed. So the Lions did re-sign kicker Michael Badgley, Money Badgers staying around in Detroit as the kicker.
Money Badgers.
They also re-signed key special teams player CJ Moore, which again may sound like an understatement at first, but again, CJ Moore has been a huge benefactor of these fourth down play calls and these trick plays. And so to get such a key contributor on the special teams is just huge for the Lions. So again, those are big re-signings for the team. But again, the big stuff, the things that have really got people going. I mean, I think it starts off with the Lions signing cornerback Emmanuel Mosley to a 1-year deal, cornerback out of the San Francisco 49ers. The Lions brought back center/guard Graham Glasgow on a 1-year deal as
back,
well.
Graham.
Which is, again, fan favorite, a lot of excitement from the fan base to have Graham back. The Lions also signed long snapper Jake McQuaid, which, again, it's a long snapper, but Jake McQuaid is a Pro Bowl long snapper. So,
2-time Pro Bowler.
Right. So something that was a low key need on the team, a low key, an area of improvement for the team gets addressed via free agency. But then I think you get to near the top where these are the 2 bigger signings for the Lions. First being the Lions signing running back David Montgomery to a 3-year, $18 million deal with $11 million of that guaranteed.
Yep.
And then the news that broke late last night, I'm literally crawling into bed, getting ready to roll over and go to sleep. Lions signed defensive back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on a 1 year deal that's valued at up to $8 million. I think it's actually like 6.5 hit to the cap, but he has the opportunity to make up to 8 with incentives. So yeah, there's a lot. I mean, Scotty, where do you when you hear this list of players?
Let's go.
Where does your mind immediately go?
Right there. Like, no, I think that seeing the full picture right after a week and seeing how Holmes put it together, I think he did it responsibly too. He didn't give stuff away. He had, team friendly deals from Okwara, and guys like Glasgow wanting to be here. Right now, he's not an all-star, but he's a really good player. Right, these really good players are wanting to be here. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, not the Eagles thing didn't work out, right? And he's here for 1 year prove-it deal. I know he's been on a couple teams. I just think they've done it. It feels like they've done it responsibly. I feel like they have addressed, right? They are addressing the defense. They're addressing everything we think they need to so far. And we still have the draft to come, right? And, I think we're going to dig into all these things. But to me, I think, this has been talked to death. I don't think we need to touch too much on it, is the Monty and Jamal thing.
Well, we haven't talked about it, so we can talk about it as much as we want.
Okay, so. All right. But because I don't care. So to me, that was a surprise, right? I would say that was the surprise was last night, and then that situation. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like I've heard a lot of different things, right? To me, it sounds like agent fail. And then he had his presser with the Saints. To me, that was kind of surprising. And what he said, and just kind of the way he felt disrespected. And I was just like, what really happened? We'll never know. But regardless, I'm sorry, we got an upgrade in 2 years younger. We paid him. But I think that he's, I mean, I don't know. This is my egregious claim tonight. I'm just going to come out with it. I think that he could break Jamal's record. Straight up.
17 touchdowns?
Yep. There's a lot of mouths to feed, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. That's my only concern. But I mean, if Jamal could do it, why can't Monty do it? Strong running.
I think if the opportunities are there, I think there's definitely no reason to doubt it. Gian, like, any thoughts on the most recent slew of signings and, like, again, just overall big picture takeaway from these group of guys coming in?
Stand by. Give me like 5.
Got you. And in that case, I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah.
I think overall, like, it's the biggest takeaway is, again, upgrades across the board, right? Like, it's literally whether you're getting starters or competition. It's consistent, just like addition of talent in areas of key needs, and it's amazing to see how Brad Holmes and the Lions have taken this initiative to basically put themselves in position where when the draft rolls around in a month, that like they're not going to be pressed to feel like they have to fill certain needs because they didn't address it in free agency. I mean, again, from the cornerback position with Emmanuel Mosley and Cam Sutton, and now Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you have competition as well as possibly some depth there. You also re-signed Will Harris, so again, there's some depth there. Bringing in Graham, again, who knows how things are going to play out with Vitae necessarily. Obviously, there's still a good portion of fans that still believe he's a cap casualty, but it hasn't played out that way just yet. Like you were kind of mentioning, the Lions have been like renegotiating and adjusting players' contracts to help make these other players fit. And they could have almost got some of that savings just by cutting Vitae. Like they could have easily, got some instant cap space just by cutting him. So the fact that they haven't cut him, at least for now, it seems like, okay, you at least have some competition between him and Graham, or again, you at least have depth behind Graham and both Frank Ragnow in a player in Graham Glasgow that can play center and guard. Again, Jake McQuaid, long snapper, but the Lions did tender, their previous long snapper, so you have some competition there. Obviously, you would assume that Jake McQuaid would have the inside track there just for, having 2 Pro Bowl seasons. And then going to Monty, it is an upgrade. And when looking at the Jamal situation, that was probably outside of, the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson signing, that was probably the biggest shock. I remember scrolling through Twitter and that notification popped up and I literally jaw dropped because I knew what it meant. Right. I knew what it meant the minute that said Lions were signing David Montgomery. I was like, oh, Jamal's not coming back. Right. I didn't even need the details. I was like, there's no way Jamal's coming back.
Right.
Oh. So, I mean, for me, it's a great reassuring feeling that Brad Holmes is executing a plan to, again, add depth, competition, and just overall upgrade talent across the board.
Yeah. Upgraded roster
with these recent moves.
For sure. And and this, we'll talk about the draft, but I mean, this just sets them up for the draft to do, I mean, like I said earlier, who knows what they're going to do? Could you see them moving up now? I mean, are they that aggressive this year? I mean, they feel aggressive. It feels aggressive.
I mean, there's a lot of things. I think everything should be on the table.
Yeah.
Everything should be on the table. I mean, there's a couple things that we're not going to put on the table because, being civilized fans, we're just not going to put tight end on the table. You're not putting that back on the table. But there's certain, it does feel like everything, is on the table when it comes down to, whether it's trading up, trading down, trading for players, everything kind of feels like it's within your grasp when you're looking at what Brad Holmes and the Lions can do from a leadership standpoint. Big picture though, looking at, I mean, I guess it's getting way ahead of things, but when you look at these roster moves, does it give you the feeling that the Lions have kind of fast tracked their way from being they're playoff hopeful to even serious Super Bowl contenders?
I think they can definitely make a run. Yeah. But the defense has to gel, right? The defense, I mean, we've got a lot of new pieces. It's going to be interesting to see that that room shake out. Okuda's been put on notice. Let's be real. That's what that says to me too. I mean, we just, right. We had a weak defense. We addressed it. We've addressed that. Now, could we use some other pieces? Yeah. Could use a little bit, an edge. Hey, if they move up, go get a guy that destroys games, right? We talked about this, get somebody that can wreck a game wrecker. We've talked about this. You do that and that defense, it'd be scary. You know what I mean? Teams not want to play that defense.
Well, again, looking at what this defense could look like on paper now versus what they look like a year ago, you feel like you have playmakers on just about every level except for maybe linebacker, right? But I think that's just kind of the way the Lions like it. We talked about this when they re-signed Alex Anzalone. It doesn't feel like that's a huge priority if they don't feel like there's a huge opportunity or if there's not an opportunity to grab a great talent at that position. So they're going to just find solid guys that they believe can do the job. But when you look at your defensive line, you have playmakers on your defensive line in Aiden Hutchinson, and whether that's a James Houston or, again, Charles Harris is sticking around, Romeo Okwara is sticking around. Like you were saying, if you go into the draft, you can add depth there potentially on, if you get lucky, you can get a Will Anderson or if you can get a Tyree Wilson, whatever your flavor of the month is at that position, you can kind of address that. And then you look at the defensive back room, that's probably one of your greater strengths. Probably after your offensive line, you start looking at your DB room and you're okay, Cam Sutton, Emmanuel Mosley, who's going to be in a competition with Jeff Okudah and Jerry Jacobs. You have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You have Kirby Joseph. You have Tracy Walker coming back. And then you have somebody in Will Harris that can just kind of again, if there's injury or if there's something that kind of goes on, you have someone that can kind of just throw in there and he can kind of contribute. It's very impressive. And for me, it's early, but Could they be playoffs? Could they be Super Bowl contenders? Yes, but there's a hell of a lot of caveats that you throw on top of that.
Right.
One of them is, like you said, does this defense gel? Like, again, it's great to have all these names and this talent on paper. They have to build that trust. They have to be able to understand and be on the same page when it comes down to executing game plans. And then the other thing is, like, what affects every team, it's injury. Like, how healthy will this team be throughout the season? 17 games is a long season, and it's a lot of things that can happen.
It's the same for everybody, but yes, I mean, that's a wild card each year.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And then lastly, I think you had one more point you were telling me earlier.
Well, yeah, and I think the third thing that, again, like, this may upset some people, but I mean, it's always going to be, I think, a concern when you look at how, like, winning is determined in the NFL. And it's quarterback play. It's consistent quarterback play. And Jared Goff is coming off of one of his best years in a while, and he's going to have to bring that same level of, like, consistency.
Run it back, Goff. Run it back.
He does. And I think it's not just consistency, it's also availability, right? Like, Jared Goff, I think, was probably one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL last year, which, again, is a testament to this offensive line, as well as just, again, how Ben Johnson, like, drew up the offense, and Goff was able to execute it. But as of right now, as we sit here today on March 20th of 2023, there is not a backup quarterback on this roster.
Right.
So you are literally, and I expect them to add one. I'm not saying that they're going to go into it with just Jared Goff, but
Sudfeld again.
You are currently sitting in a situation where it's Jared Goff or bust as of today. And so if Jared doesn't have a good year, or if Jared gets banged up, yeah, like, you start to kind of feel like the Lions, like, playoff and maybe in obvious and possibly Super Bowl hopes immediately go down the toilet in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, right? Like, to have, it's just like, there's nothing to do, right? Goff, I think he can run it back, but to your point, like, we're one Jared Goff injury away from, like, the season, like, not being good, right?
Yeah.
And that's a high risk. Now, that's the NFL. That's, a lot of these teams have that, right? Star quarterback goes down. I mean, but Cooper Rush did a good job in Dallas last year. I thought that would be interesting, right? He was available.
Yeah.
There were some options out there.
Well, I said to you, yeah, because all right, so, like, news broke, like, not too long ago that the Browns just signed Joshua Dobbs. And so, like, I sent in our group chat, I was like, at this point in time, like, the Lions' approach to the quarterback, like, to the backup quarterback position, is becoming comical. Like, their ability to just not care about it.
Don't care. Like, we're gonna.
And again, it's kind of tongue in cheek, because I do expect them to address it. Brad Holmes said that he would address it. He said that they needed to kind of put more of a priority on it, but it just hasn't, like, shown itself so far. Every time you see a quarterback off, we're like, oh, that would have been a decent backup.
Dude,
that'd have been a decent backup.
In their intro presser, didn't Sutton say he played quarterback in, like, Mosley? He played quarterback.
Mosley said that he played in, like, high school.
And I was like, that's our backup. Mosley's our backup right now.
That's your emergency break glass quarterback.
Mosley.
When, like, quarterback 1, 2, and 3 go down, it's like, well, can you still run? Yeah. Can you still run read option?
Right? Maybe.
If Jared Goff gets injured, then it goes to Jack Fox, then Emmanuel Mosley.
That's actually true. Jack Fox is probably next in line.
Yeah.
Perfection. Good call, Gian. Do we have you back now, Gian?
Well, yeah, you got me for good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Miko was asking us. Yeah, Miko, go ahead.
No, yeah, Gian, I want to get your thoughts on just, again, all of the Lions, like, free agency moves that we've seen, like, in this past week. I mean, again, where does that have you sitting as far as excitement? And is there any one of these moves that kind of stands out to you more than the others?
As far as excitement goes, I mean, my God, like, I don't have to. I'm not going to go through them, like, one by one, but, like, I was teaching Tuesday night, and I put my phone on Do Not Disturb so it doesn't buzz or anything during the lessons. And so I take it off of Do Not Disturb, and then all of the news about David Montgomery, it's just, and I was standing in that room and I just had this smile on my face. And I'm just like,
I was blowing up our group chat with that Dave Montgomery news. Like I was going on a tirade of just like every bit of news I could find, putting it in our group chat.
Yeah, and Scott and I talked about this the next day of any of the Bears, he was the one who always like made me nervous when he touched the ball.
Yeah.
And so like now that he's a Lion, like he said, he's
on the good side.
Upgrade. Yeah, it's absolutely an upgrade, and I think we just have to remember. The only thing I'll say about the Jamal situation is, there are bad plumbers, there are bad CEOs, there are bad doctors. There's also bad agents. And I think this ties into the Chauncey Gardner thing, because they offered him more with Gardner. They offered him more. The Eagles offered him more. He said, no, I think I'll get more on the open market. And then he goes and he can't. And then he has to take a lower offer. Like, well, I feel like if you're an agent, you're not doing your job if you don't know what the market is.
True.
I'm sorry. Like, that's your job.
From what I heard with the Gardner thing, real quick, is they offered him a 3-year deal for, it wasn't like 13 or like something like that, but it was, and he gets 1 year, 8, and the agent was like, "What would you take?" 1 year for 8.
Well, it was, and like 3 for 8, and then like year 3 of a 3-year deal that the Eagles offered him was rumored that like year 3 was 17 million. So like that was going to be the bulk of his deal, and it's like, yeah, but they could easily cut him as well.
Correct.
Like he could never see year 3.
Yeah.
money.
So to your point, John, this is an example of a good agent, then I would say. So your point is still made, still valid. Like that's your agent doing you right, and then an agent doing you dirty. Like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so as I was reading the things about Jamal Williams, like, I mean, again, like that just, I feel like I texted you guys. That was my immediate reaction was, I feel like his agent messed up, like either not knowing the market or not knowing his client's value within that market. I don't know. I just think because like Jamal was not sitting in any of these negotiations. He was not with
right, and
he was not like.
Sorry, John, and also just to add to that, also Holmes was like, mess around and find out.
I mean, basically, that's kind of how I look at like the Jamal situation. Is again, I was listening to Pride of Detroit earlier before we started our show, and Jeremy dropped some nuggets where it was, from what he was told, Jamal was offered five a year, and he thought he could get more, and obviously he took less to go to New Orleans. But yeah, I do think Brad Holmes had a very like calculated approach to this, where like, hey, this is our evaluation for you, and if you want to go out and shop yourself and see if you can get a better deal, that's fine. But we're not going to be held captive by that. I like to kind of like put a real world spin on this, or like something I guess that's maybe a little more relatable to people. I think what you're starting to see like in like the actual workplace, like Scott, you and I work in corporate America, what you're starting to see is that like companies are going to give you what they think you're worth, and they're going to give themselves enough wiggle room to like, you know, obviously be able to give you raises, but they're not going to like hamstring themselves to a situation where like you go into job interviews and be like, well, I have all of these qualifications, so you should be able to give me whatever I ask for. And I think that's kind of the situation Jamal found himself in, where he was like, well, I have this great resume from this past season. I should be able to demand and get what I feel like I'm owed. And Brad Holmes said, no, we know the value of a running back. We know the value of a running back that is, you know, part of a committee, and this is as much as we're going to pay you. And I mean, again, Jamal has every right to basically, you know, not want that offer and to pursue other opportunities. And at the end of the day, like, any comments that Jamal has in regards to that, I don't think really matter, because at the end of the day, this is what business looks like in the NFL.
Yeah. It's a business, right? And a business right now is pretty good for us.
I mean, well, I'm just saying, I'm glad, like, yes, it is a business. And I feel like this is where we're really glad we have the guy who we have as GM. I mean, he really seems to have an incredible football, like a knowledge of the game and a knowledge of what it takes and player evaluation and that whole side of it, which he had evidenced by his 2 great drafts in a row.
Yeah, but he hasn't done this in free agency before. This is a first, right? We've been asking him, right?
God, cut me off to say my next sentence for me. What am I supposed to do now?
Teamwork.
That's right. No, but that was the big question mark, is that he had such a slow approach last season, and I, again, very wrongly thought we were going to see more of the same this year. That's absolutely not the case. He just went out and proved that he is just as savvy and adept at free agency as he is at the draft. And my God, like, dudes, I'm not going to say he's the best, but I think there's, tiers and of ownership, of management, of coaches. And because at any year it can fluctuate. There's too many variables to say this dude is the best. But dude, Brad Holmes is in the top tier. I think that is not a controversial statement.
No, I think that he solidifies it in this year's draft, though. I think that
he's clearly the best we've had, though. Like,
correct, yes, 5. I mean, that's
the hell with where he ranks among like other GMs and like, dude, he's the best we've ever had.
That's true. Well, to that point, I don't know if you saw. I put in the show notes. Someone pointed out. I thought it was a great comparison. If you take all the moves Brad Holmes has made in free agency so far, and you add up every single contract, David Montgomery, Emmanuel Mosley, Chauncey Gardner, bringing back Glasgow, re-signing Bugs, Kaminsky, every single move that's happened in the past week and a half, wrap it up, put it in a box, it still does not add up to the $90 million Bob Quinn paid one guy in Trey Flowers.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's
remember that
different ways to. I think there's
start twitching. Start twitching.
I think there's a number of ways of looking at that, because, like, yes, that's an exuberant amount of money to pay to a player like Trey Flowers, but at the same time, if Trey Flowers had even played close to the value of that contract, we wouldn't be saying that. The reason we can say that now is because Trey Flowers didn't play up to the value of a $90 million contract. I mean, no, I'm just saying, like, that's context. Like, listen, people have been drawing all types of conclusions, and I'm all for giving Brad Holmes his flowers. I just, like, I can't go.
But not Trey Flowers.
No, not.
But not those flowers.
But yeah, like, I still enjoy, like, enjoy context, and I still enjoy, people being a little bit accurate with their points. But I mean, all right. So real quick, going back to these free agents that we have, when looking at, so there are 2 positions. I said, like, there's competition kind of everywhere, but honestly, like, I think if there's 2 players that we signed recently that are going to be in direct competition, it's Emmanuel Mosley and Graham Glasgow at their respective positions. Who do you think has a better chance between those 2 of getting a starting job? If you had to, like, bet money on it today.
I mean, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say both of them, because I think.
Okay, yeah, that's not what I asked you. I said which. I said which. So
right.
That's an either or.
You got to pick.
I don't know.
You got to pick.
I'm gonna say Emmanuel Mosley, maybe.
Okay.
Because I do think people are overlooking. The conversation's kind of been dominated by Okudah. Is Okudah going to be the odd man out? But I think iffy. I think everyone kind of forgot about him, and rightfully so. He really didn't make a case for himself. There have been rumors, again, unfounded, I don't know, about just how hard he works and where his head's at. And so I think it's very clear Okudah wants to be a part of this franchise. He wants to play in the NFL. He wants he wants it. And I think he's willing to do whatever that takes. So I think he's definitely not going to he's going to be a competitor. I think the odd man out becomes iffy. When it comes to Glasgow, I don't know, man. Tommy Kramer, Matt Nelson, I think Glasgow could probably beat out either of them. So I'd say it's both, but if I had, forced to say one, I don't know, maybe Mosley.
Scotty?
Yeah, I think I lean more towards Graham coming in, shaking it up a little bit. I think that he's got a chance to take that over. He's got a lot of experience. I mean, he's been here before. He's going to work his tail off to be back. It's like somebody's coming home, right? It's the motivation that they're going to have, right? That's my only difference is I think his motivation in coming home to show the fans he's back is going to be really important to him and to get a starting role. I mean, you got to have that edge. What's the edge? And for him, it's to do that, make that journey all the way back, right? I mean, how crazy.
Yeah.
And good. I mean, like we said, we got depth there regardless. So, but I would pick him. I think it's going to be really, really interesting to see the cornerbacks and how that shakes out, though, with Emmanuel Mosley and Okudah and that group. Because you got a real competition now. This ain't this is not, the Lions of last year is like, oh my God, who are we going to put back there? I'm like, this is, you're going to see probably a lot of different setups. You're going to see these guys play a lot. I mean, I think to me and I'm going to just kind of go off to the side a little bit. What's the most interesting to me is Gardner Johnson too, right? He's not just he's can play in different positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's not just a safety. He's not like you can put him in unique situations and he can see the field. So to me, that's cool too, because that throws another wrench in the competition. Cause who's going to play what? This is a lot on Aaron Glenn, and we're going to see, and here's the other thing too. We're going to see if Aaron Glenn's the guy, right? That's the other thing too.
That's a really good point.
Because Aaron Glenn, we're like, dude, can you do it? Right? Then the D locked down. Hey, Karina. Yeah, I know. Right. I think that definitely. Yeah, this is a great point. Like Aaron, he's got the guys now. Now what? Now I think he got it going at the end of the season. Can he keep it rolling? It's a new season, new team. Right? Now I know they got good leadership on the defense, but this will be interesting to see. So that's my long-winded answer.
Well, one thing that I want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, before I'll let you go in a second, but I just wanted to give a shout out to our YouTube and Twitch audience. Appreciate you all kind of coming by. Dr. Detroit, Casey, Tactical Puma 58, Super Saiyan Lions. Again, anybody that I missed, we appreciate you guys coming in. Please be sure to hit that like button and continue to chat with us and let us know what you're thinking. We're also, John, apparently Tommy Kramer was not re-signed. So.
Oh, okay.
Also, shout out to our Twitch folks. Jay Pook, what's up?
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Keeping me honest. I love it. Accountability.
Well,
no, I was just going to add on to what you had said with Chauncey Gardner. Is he has a history with Holmes and Campbell from his time in New Orleans, and someone pointed out that Aaron Glenn had Chauncey Gardner playing nickel corner on the Saints when he was there. So, and then someone else pointed out between Sutton, Mosley, and Chauncey Gardner, all of these guys have versatility within their position. So that allows, and again, to your point about this is really Aaron Glenn's audition for a future with the organization. The versatility with those three guys, as talented as they are, that allows Glenn to constantly always have to not get out mismatched, I guess, or just outmatched, is to constantly cover the mismatch. Because I think, apparently, Chauncey Gardner was fantastic in the slot. Yeah. So, that, and then Sutton, I don't know. It seems like all of these guys have versatility, and, they're going to be hiding their coverage. It allows us to hide our coverage. And that seemed to be one of the big things that we ran into in the first half of last season when we were doing so poorly. Is Dan Campbell came out and said, we really had to simplify it. And when you simplify it, you can't really hide what you're doing. So, and then they got up to speed back half of the season, and they could start hiding what they were going to do. And I think now that the talent's there, we can some more tricks up our sleeve.
No, absolutely. And so just like my take, I think right now, I think if I had to pick someone who was going to get a starting job out of those two players between Graham and Emmanuel Mosley, I think I also would go Graham. And it's two-part, like it's twofold for me. One, I think Graham is just more natural at the guard position. And so I think he'll be able to find some chemistry with that O-line. Again, he's played with Frank, he's played with Taylor before. Obviously, he hasn't played with Panay before, who he would be next to. But I just think like Graham has always kind of shown that fluidity to be able to adapt. And I know they love Vaitai. And I think we'll still have to see if they even like restructure Vaitai in any kind of way, because I think if they get into a situation where they're evaluating Graham and they feel really good about Graham, I think you are going to have to approach Vaitai about a pay cut in the same way they've approached Romeo and Charles Harris, if not for any other reason than to A, be able to have more cap space to sign your draft class, or B, to be able to sign DJ Chark, which seems to be like close to a priority for them. They're at least trying to do that. And that becomes the next possible player to get, a pay cut. But I just think looking and watching Graham's press conference today, it definitely seems like he's the type of guy who's going to be like gunning for a starting position and really be out there to compete. And I just think he kind of has the reps, again, of playing interior offensive line a little bit more than Vaitai. Remember, Vaitai came here and kind of switched to guard after they got Panay. So I think Graham has a little more just comfortability there. But I also think looking at this defensive back room, I think Jeff is going to have a lot of motivation to prove that he needs to start. We kind of talked about this last year when he was coming off of his Achilles injury in the first place. And we were like, well, who's going to start opposite of Amani? And Jeff kind of like ran away with it fairly early if I ever remember correctly in training camp. Like he took a hold of that fairly quickly. Now, obviously, Emmanuel Mosley is coming back off of an ACL, so I'm not sure when he'll be available. I'm sure he's hoping to be back by training camp, but again, that's something that just plays into the favor of Jeff Okudah, where he has more opportunities to start opposite of Cam Sutton. He's got veteran guys that he can actually lean on and learn from, and guys that have played his position at a very high level in both Sutton and Mosley and CGJ. So he's got a lot of guys, and say what you want about Jeff as far as like his play not always being consistent. Obviously, he started off really well last year and it kind of tailed off. He has always kind of proven to be a student of the game and always looking to learn from those around him. So he finally has like a really well-developed cornerback group room with veterans that have played at a high level. Last year, like the best he had was Mike Hughes. And like, again, no shot at Mike Hughes, but again, Mike Hughes hadn't had the type of consistency that we're talking about Sutton and Mosley and CGJ having. So I still think Okudah is going to have a really good chance, and I think he's going to put up a good fight against Mosley to kind of keep CB2 locked down.
If he can just like stay out of his head, kind of get out of his own way and just play the game. Jay Pook was commenting on that too.
I don't even know if it's getting out of his own head though. I mean, I really think we are underestimating the fact, like, I don't know why we do this. And I think it's just because his rookie year wasn't great and he had like a very bad first game. We, for some reason, are like somehow downplaying an Achilles injury.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, I don't understand why we're acting as if like he sprained a knee. Like, he tore his Achilles.
Yes, and we've talked a lot about these injuries.
Because, like, that ruins most people's careers, and he came back that first couple games, and while, again, they weren't winning, it wasn't always his fault. Like, he was playing well. It wasn't until, like, that second half of the season where you could maybe point towards fatigue or just, again, his Achilles just probably giving out home a little bit or him just not having the conditioning to play 17 games.
That shit gets so sore. I'm sorry. Like, your calf.
I have a little conspiracy theory about that. I think he didn't get I don't think he got the flu. I think he had COVID and he had like some long COVID symptoms and like he just couldn't breathe. He like just couldn't, like his lungs never like recovered. Because from what he looked like in the beginning of the season to what, like, I don't know. I don't think the flu knocks you out for like 2 months like that.
It's fair.
I don't know. Injury. He also had an elbow injury.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, that's what he missed. That's why he missed the Green Bay game.
Okay.
one thing I did want to go ahead, John. Go ahead, John.
No, you add your thing.
So I just wanted to add when we're talking on the the defense and Aaron Glenn, he does have, I forgot to mention, he does have John Fox now too. Like OG, right? Bears coach, old Bears coach.
Oh, that's right.
Coach.
As a
defensive consultant specialist.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, I just think that I forgot about that. So they got him help too. You know what I mean? Like they went out and got him a helping hand. John Fox had some good teams, man, some good defenses.
Yeah, absolutely. So
oh
no, go ahead, John.
I was going to speak on the injuries, and I was going to say this is a late add to the show notes. The Lions also not signed, but they hired Brett Fisher back in mid-February, and I don't know, I can't remember if you guys talked about this but it was very low key hire. But he is now, I think it's like the director of player health and performance, and Brett Fisher is incredibly well respected around the league. He founded and operated the Fisher Institute for physical therapy and performance out in Phoenix that has been well known to all the NFL players for years. And they would they would do their off-season rehab at this facility that he founded and operated. And now he is our personal director of player health and performance. Combine that with the new turf, and I think they are taking this injury problem very, very seriously, which good for them because, when Jerry Jacobs came back, that secondary started to turn around, and look how many, you can make the argument that if we weren't down so many wide receivers at the start of the season, it's hard to argue against the Seahawks that we put up more points than 45, but
right.
still.
I was going to say, it's hard to look at the offense at all when the defense was doing what they were doing, but yeah.
Right, absolutely. But, Kaminsky was out. Vaitai popped in a preseason game. And I just think that it's going to be it's much needed upgrade to that sort of overlooked, because we always talk about injuries during the season, but then on the off season, guys I feel like Brett Fisher are really, really going to be become very important figures.
Well, I think that's also another reason why players might want to be here. You know what I mean? So they
right.
Well, yeah. I mean,
another selling point.
You have a really good staff on hand that seems to be again prioritizing players' health. Shout out to CT Squid in the YouTube chat who says we already have the cap space to sign the rookies. He hasn't done anything with Big V's contract yet, and he's basically saying kind of put out the caveat that the way the villain Brad Holmes is operating, he's either restructuring or Big V's getting cut, and I would agree with that. And the way things currently stand, they're either probably trying to work out a restructure, and they're probably also working with Big V and probably talking to Chark's camp to just try to figure out okay, what's a good number we can get you back in the building at, so that you understand how much you're asking Big V how big of a pay cut you're asking him to take,
right? So
that you can make it work. But I mean, again, like we said at the beginning of this segment or the beginning of the show, the Lions addressed a lot of needs in free agency. There's a lot of big signings, and again, areas that were once a weakness are now a strength. Areas that were a strength have now been upgraded with added players. And so it kind of gets you in the point where the draft is coming up. And guys, I got to be honest, you look at the landscape for the Lions for the draft, having the number 6 pick, having the number 18 pick in the first round, as well as 2 picks in the second round. I'm having a hard time understanding what the needs of this team are. I don't think it's as clear cut as it was going into free agency.
Agreed.
So with that said, let's start with the number 6 pick. If you're the Lions, where are you going with this pick? Who are you hoping falls to you? What are you looking to do with that pick? I mean, any ideas, any thoughts on what you think the Lions might be doing in this situation?
Scotty, you want to take it away?
Sure, that's fine. I mentioned this earlier. It feels like they've been very aggressive. I could see them continuing to be aggressive and get up to 3 and take whoever they want at 3. But like whether that's Will Anderson or Carter, I don't know about that, but getting a game wrecker and just solidifying that defense for the foreseeable future.
Well, since you brought up Jalen Carter, let's take a small detour down that road.
Down Carter Lane. Okay.
Yeah, because Jalen Carter is a huge topic of conversation when it comes to this draft class. Obviously, he's had the legal concerns. And then last week he had the horrible pro day. And so there's a lot of people saying that his draft stock is falling. But again, to go along with that like terrible pro day, he did have some of those legal concerns kind of figured out for the most part. You know, all of the worst things that we were thinking about Jalen Carter are coming out to not be true.
Yeah.
So it kind of leaves you with the question of, okay, so you still have the horrible pro day. You still have a couple red flags just in the sense of like him racing, again, kind of having a pattern of behavior of, you know, just driving too fast. I do believe that like, the initial report was that he lied to the police in the first place. So like there are still some red flags as far as character wise. And then there's the bad pro day. Should the Lions even have Jalen Carter on their board come draft day?
I don't.
That's above
know.
my pay grade.
Yeah,
one of you want. This is ridiculous.
Like, hold on.
You want to step out on
hold
this
on
and just plant a flag.
Okay. So I'll come out. So I'll come out and maybe say it is pendulum back and forth. At first I said no, and then because of the character stuff, racing the 2 people are dead, and then when the lawyer came out and the statement came out that the worst of this is not true. He did cooperate. The reason he returned, he didn't flee the scene. The reason he came back is because the police asked him to, and he was cooperating. So the worst aspects of these things turned out to not be true, which is great. So I was like, okay, well, yeah. So now Carter's back on the menu. And then he has this awful pro day.
Back on the menu.
Oh, thank you so much. So then he has this awful pro day. That like that. Because like, I mean, my man, like, what, like, 2 of his friends died. And I think we talked about this tonight. Like, he's probably got some form of PTSD. Like, if he saw that crash happen, then he's probably depressed as shit, not sleeping. Someone said he gained 9 pounds, like just stress eating. Like, dude's probably like in a bad way. And if he can get his head right, so then that was my thing. It's like, okay, well, so the worst of the character concerns aren't there, but now you have like the dude's got PTSD, so a head case, justifiably so. So, do you think you can manage that? Do you think you can work with that? And then, Nico, you sent those 2 clips of people analyzing his tape at Georgia. And even before January, this was before any of the racing came to light, people were really like, I don't know if this guy's got a motor. He really kind of seems to, like, he's an absolute game wrecker when he wants to be. But there just doesn't seem to be that much of a motor there. And so then I was like, no, yes, no. And I don't know where I'm at. And I think I'm still
out here double dutching with Jalen Carter.
He is. He is.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to end on no. But that said, the GMs and the coaches, they know so much more than us. And I hate to be one of those guys that but Brad Holmes so far has earned our trust. And I think if they do end up taking him, then it's like, okay, like they see something there. Whatever issues he has, I feel like they think they can manage it. We talked about what better mentors could they ask for in, Aaron Glenn, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, Kelvin Shepard, Randall L. I mean, former players, I'm sure they've seen their share of stuff. And so, yeah, I hate to be that guy, but like, I feel like if they do take him, with the worst of the allegations not being true, I'd be like, okay, sure. Great.
Scotty,
I don't think he should be on my own personal,
personal opinion. You don't think Jalen Carter should be on the Lions board? Okay.
At 6 or firework I mean, I'll get
so
into
LA
that.
right now.
Well, hold on. So no, hold on. So you said at 6. So now that makes it even more interesting because you're saying that you wouldn't draft him at 6, but if something happened and he fell to 18, you would draft him?
Probably.
So what happened in those 12 picks? That him being a head case, him not like, because this is like the one thing. So, because this is where I'll say, like, I was with you, right? I double dutched with Jalen Carter for a while with like, okay, the legal stuff, but then the talent, but then the bad pro day, but the talent, like, and building up an argument that maybe he is just like an emotional wreck right now. Maybe he is just like the weight of everything that was like the worst that could be, that the worst that could happen to him in that legal situation just got the best of him, and he wasn't able to put his best foot forward. I'm willing to give him a pass on that. And so like for me, like he's still on the board because I think I still believe that the Lions can get the best out of him. I do think so. Like the videos that I sent you guys about, people like critiquing his motor, which is great. Like, again, like there's no such thing as a perfect prospect. So like, that's what I was looking for. I'm looking for like, okay, what is the chink in Jalen Carter's armor? And if it's like, you have questions about his energy or his conditioning, well, if I remember correctly, that's kind of been a concern for most Georgia players, is because they have so much talent on that defensive line. They rotate guys very frequently. Okay. So you never really know, like nobody's ever really out there for like a full stretch of plays because they have so many guys that can wreck a game. So they're constantly getting guys in and out of there. It was the same concern that we had about Jordan Davis. Now, Jordan Davis was much bigger, but it was the exact same concern that people had about Jordan Davis coming out. Is like, well, he doesn't play every single down. And it's like, doesn't have to, because Jalen Carter is on the defensive line and Devonta Wyatt was on the defensive line. Like there's other guys that can do stuff like that. So, for me, yeah, I would still have Jalen Carter on the board on the strength of like his talent is that good. He's that good. He's that explosive. And John, it goes back to something that you pointed out. I do think you have the infrastructure to help a guy like that can help a guy rebound and overcome his immature nature and his immature tendencies and put him around guys that are going to hold him accountable and put him in positions to succeed, where again, you're not coming into a situation to be the savior of the organization. You're coming in here to be a part of a really good defense and to do your job, right? Do your job, and we're going to care about you as a player and as a person. I think that's another thing that this Lions organization is doing very, very well these days in comparison to others. They not only care about the players as far as their performance, but they care about them off the field as well. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson actually even mentioned that very thing today when he was talking about AG. Like, AG cares about you on the field and off the field. So I think you have enough in place to kind of like help a Jalen Carter and help build him back up. And so like that's why I said, like, for me, I would take him at 6. But I think if you're going to take him at 18, I think you need to be just as comfortable taking him at 6, because nothing about his character is changing in 12 picks.
Yeah. I just like, so my thinking was, if he's still there at 18 and we still have 18, maybe this is we talk about this later, but you touched on it earlier with the free agency gone the way it has, and us not really having to address quote unquote needs in the draft. And with everything that this free agency period tells us about where Brad Holmes thinks this team is in its ability to compete and make a deep playoff run, I think they're thinking the time is now. And I think that we very well may see some fireworks from Holmes.
So first off, I agree, but we want to welcome in the Pride of Detroit family that just rated us with, I don't know, 90-some people. So if everybody's hearing that, sorry. Oh, yeah. So thanks for the subscription.
That is not Scotty hitting the soundboard for once. That is actually like our Twitch audience.
Yes. So thank you all for hopping over. We appreciate you all. We are in a Jalen Carter hole right now. So
trying to dig
we're
our way
trying
out. Yeah.
so thank you.
Hold on. So Scotty, before you give your thoughts on Jalen Carter, I want to respond to something that Truth Teller 2011 said, which is basically he said you can't take a super emotional roller coaster guy at 6 with the monetary investment required for that draft position. That's the difference between 6 and 18. And I would understand if we were talking about different positions. Like, you're still drafting a defensive tackle. Like, I get that the monetary, like, yes, you're technically paying one player more, but if he turns out to be a bad pick, you still got to cut him anyway. You're losing money regardless. It's just you're not giving anybody else to take that gamble. So if you're going to sit here and be like, well, no, we'll wait till 18. I don't think Jalen Carter makes it to 18. I don't think Jalen Carter makes it to 10, if we're being honest. Like,
hopefully he doesn't even make it to 9, so the Bears can't take him.
And that was kind of what I was getting at, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're the Bears and Jalen Carter falls to you at 9. You do have bigger needs, but like, you're going to be looking at Jalen Carter really hard.
Yeah.
And so I get it that, yes, there is technically like a contractual like difference, but when we're talking about the player, like if Jalen Carter's not worth drafting at 6, then he shouldn't be worth drafting at all. In my opinion.
Correct.
Because you're basically saying like the reason you're not drafting him at 6 is because of his character or emotional or mental stability. Fine. If that's what you're going to say, then fine. But he should be off your board completely because none of those things are changing at pick 18. Only thing that's changing is how much money you're paying him. But the player himself is the exact same guy at 18.
Yeah, so I'm going to push back on that a little bit, and I'm going to use a metaphor that my sister uses to buy jeans.
Okay.
Or like to buy clothes. She's like, she takes a look at it and she's like, and she looks at the price tag and she's like, do I $30 like this, whatever it is, let's say jeans, and be like, okay, I $20 like these jeans, so I'm not going to buy them. I don't think you can separate costs. Like if he does fall to 18,
I think so. In the draft, I think so. This isn't free agency.
I mean, okay, fair. Like
if this was free agency, and we're talking about like, again, similar situation that we had with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, where it's like, hey, you can wait on this guy and wait for the market to settle, and you can probably get him for a discount. Like, you're still wasting a first round draft pick,
right?
But you were the guy a couple months ago saying we're playing with house money.
Yeah, and that's why I said take him at 6. Why wait to take him at 18?
Okay, all right, that's fair.
Scotty, you can now jump in.
Do I even want to? I mean, like,
I don't know. Are you going to make me angry too? Or am I going to have to yell at you too?
No, I mean, you can. That's fine. I think it's a gamble, right? I think it's a gamble. I also think, like I said, I think the Lions, as aggressive as they have been, I could see them moving up in the draft. And I don't think they're moving up to take, Jalen Carter. Like, I don't think they're moving up to do that. So what I think, again, that's just me, but that's what's interesting to me, how aggressive they've been in free agency, and they're working now to get this team going. So I could see them moving up. And if they move up, I don't know if it's to take a quarterback or not. People aren't going to like that. But, again, I'm not deciding this. I'm just saying if they move up, I would be like, oh, no. Are they going to try
Honestly,
they're going to try and take
hold on,
a quarterback
let's
there?
Let's explore that. Like, if
because
you're trading
up to 3, right?
Yeah, if you're trading up to 3, as much as it is about you trading up to 3, it's also equally about Arizona trading down. So Arizona has to be willing to trade down,
correct,
with the knowledge that they're not losing out on a defensive player, right? So like, they're not going to give you 3 so that you can get Will Anderson if they feel like they need Will Anderson.
Correct. But
if you go up to 3 and you're like, we're actually going up here to get a quarterback, well, now it's a little more tempting, right? It makes a little more sense for Arizona. They may still miss out on Will Anderson, but they still have a chance of getting Jalen Carter.
I mean, I think Anderson's the play at 3 personally for the team. Like, but I don't know what they're going to do, right? We've talked about quarterback, and we don't have a backup quarterback right now on the roster, right? The backup quarterback is Fox, and then mostly.
But that's why trading up to 3 is an interesting concept to explore, because sure, you would think like, oh, if they're trading up to 3, it's for Will Anderson, but if you're Arizona, why would you not want Will Anderson? You lost J.J. Watt and Zach Allen.
Right.
You need a pass rusher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to me what it's just. That's what's interesting, and I see Holmes being so aggressive this year. Right. We haven't seen it from him yet, and he's in the mix. He's leading the pack. Right.
That goes back to my whole, like, you're playing with house money, John. Since you wanted to bring it up early,
yeah.
You want to trade up to 3. You got some house money. Go up there, and if there's a quarterback there that you like,
so
you don't have a backup.
Right.
So, but anyway, to answer the question in regards to Jalen Carter, if he can go anywhere to be rehabbed, right, the Lions will take your unwanted items and make them shiny and clean them up, right? So, if he's going to go anywhere and have a good career, or be able to turn his mindset around with Dan Campbell and the leadership we have, I think that Detroit would be the best place for him to land. So, but that's all. Can we move on from that now?
No, I think that's fair. Like, and again, I know, John, I gave you a hard time about it, but like I could understand, like, if you're saying that Jalen Carter is off your board, like the red flags are just too red for you, they're just too blinding for you. I'm not gonna sit here and like argue you into the ground about it. I can see why certain people would feel that way, and I do understand that it is a gamble. But I mean, I also don't know. I can't think of the last time we had a draft prospect deal with the things that he's dealing with.
Yeah.
Pre-draft. Like, I can't think of one. Right. And I get it. Like, I would have loved to have, like, for all the stuff to have been going on with him and him still put on like an impressive pro day, because I think that would have shut everything down. But I also think that also showcases the hypocrisy of society. Right. Like, if Jalen Carter had like lit up
Karina,
his pro day, we would all be like, oh, forget the legal stuff.
Right. See, we got Karina hopping on real quick. She wanted to agree. She wanted to put in her 2 cents on Carter. Thank you for that.
But yeah, like, if he showed up to his pro day and he had lit it up, like, none of us would be talking about character concerns. If he had put up the most impressive bench press, if he was just lightning fast through his,
that's a fair point.
It's a little hypocritical, a little bit. So, but no, I understand if he's not on your board. I think the next question though that we have though is like, okay, let's say Jalen Carter is not on your board, then who is at 6? Are you drafting another edge guy in Tyree Wilson? Do you have room for another edge guy in like Tyree Wilson? Are you drafting another cornerback in either Christian Gonzalez or Devin Witherspoon?
No, I don't think we're doing that after the free agency, but maybe. I mean, don't.
Like, and I don't necessarily mean at 6, but like 6 or 18. Like, are you still dipping into those positions even after the free agency haul that Brad Holmes has put together?
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I don't think so.
I think. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That would be a head scratcher for me. That's all. I would just be confused. I'd be like, okay, this all made sense, and now I'm confused. That's all. Now, it doesn't mean they won't do it, because they are the type of, people that talk about the best player available they will take. And that's what they said last season inside the den. So I know that they're going to have their board, which, God, wouldn't that be amazing to see, like, how they evaluate these guys? But like, they're bored. I mean, and they're going to have guys that we're going to, I mean, look at the past couple of years. We're like, why? Oh, that's why. Like, there's reasons. They got good reasons, and I do trust what they're doing. At 6, me personally, I think you add to the pass rush.
Yeah, I think
sure up the defense for a while.
What I think the Lions would do if Jalen Carter was like, let's say Jalen Carter's off their board.
Yeah.
Then Tyree Wilson seems like the pick the Lions would make, and I hate it.
Why?
So much.
Why do you hate it?
It's the same reason I hated Trayvon Walker last year.
Okay.
Like, is Tyree Wilson athletic? Yes, probably. Like, he's like freakishly athletically, right? Really tall, long arms. Looks like he was made in a laboratory, right? When it comes down to just physical traits. The dude isn't like, he's not a top 10 pass rusher. Like, I don't know in any draft class where you would think Tyree Wilson is a top 10 pass rusher. He's just like, he has like these freakish measurables that people salivate over, and you're like, oh, well, if we can teach him X, Y, and Z, then he'll be good. And I just watched Trayvon Walker go through his rookie year, and it didn't look all that impressive. And so, like, me personally, like, I'm not a huge fan of Tyree Wilson. I think it's somebody that the Lions would gravitate to, because I think there was rumors last year that they were fans of Trayvon Walker, but they took Aiden because Trayvon went first. But he kind of fits something that I think the Lions would like to do, because he can play 3-tech, he can play on the edge, but I don't know if he's really good at anything, really. Like, I haven't seen one thing that people are like, oh, Tyree Wilson is really good at this. They're just like, well, he's strong and he has like crazy measurables. And it's like, but is he going to be good at football?
So that's a very good point. And I remember you bringing that up about Trayvon Walker. What really solidified that last year was when you were like, was this one, like, a draft analysis came out and they're like, if you can teach Trayvon Walker some pass rush moves, he's going to be an absolute dynamo. And you're like, what's being left unsaid in that analysis is that you're going to draft number 1 overall a pass rusher who doesn't have pass rush moves.
Yeah, you're drafting a football player who doesn't know how to do, like, day one doesn't know how to do his job. So you're literally starting from the ground up on, like, this is how you do your job well.
So, but does the presence of Aiden Hutchinson on the other side change the conversation for Tyree Wilson, a little wiggle room there to allow him to just be an athletic, behemoth who just, there's the ball, go get it. And you have James Houston and Kaminsky and Pascal and
I want to go over there.
Hutchinson on like the other side of this guy with refinement, with technique, and then you just have like a wrecking ball. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying, like, does that change the metric at all for you?
Sure. I think the problem with it is that the players that would probably, like, the guys that you already have on the roster are already better at doing what you would probably ask Tyree Wilson to do. Like, James Houston, again, like, yes, he spent most of the year on the practice squad, but he was getting better and better and better. And I think we would all already agree, James Houston right now is a better pass rusher than Tyree Wilson.
Yeah, that's
pass rusher
bend is preposterous.
It's insane, right? Romeo and Charles Harris have a level of experience and have a level of comfortability in the NFL of probably playing against the run than Tyree Wilson does. Julian Okwara has more experience and, again, just more reps at playing that position than Tyree Wilson does. Josh Pascal, again, can kick out or be inside. Like, are we sure that you draft Tyree Wilson and he immediately jumps any of those guys? Or are you just going to give him the position because, well, he was the 6th pick?
That's a great point. I don't know. I mean, I know where I'd want to go with 6, but Miko, you're going to hate
it. All right.
It's offensive line, isn't it?
Okay,
it's get the best offensive lineman in the draft. Yeah.
I mean, I don't hate it. It just wouldn't be. It's not sexy. It's just like,
right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, no,
it's Peter Skoronski, isn't it?
It's either Skoronski or Torrance, whichever they deem to be better,
higher on their evaluation.
Guard. I like whoever is guard. I haven't really done my my diligence here. But I do think with Scott, you said it at the top of the show, game rep. And you've got one in Sewell. Seems like you got one in Aiden Hutchinson. And I just think that this frees them up to just kind of, this is now like a playground. You don't have any pressing needs. And I think they just, in the show notes you had said best player available. And I think to an extent that's true. Yep. But I do think they still follow this philosophy of building through the trenches. So I would not be surprised to see a first-round O-lineman or first-round, basically 2 of the top 4 be O-line and D-line. I don't know which order, but 2 of the top 4, I would not be surprised, O-line D.
So with this, I think generally speaking, I think at 6 we need to get, like, because of everything they've done, whoever's at 6 that we're getting needs to be able to play day one. right? We need some like
you would like to think so, right?
Yeah, like so that to me takes out like we need a player that's going to play. Like we're not drafting a project. You know what I mean? Like I just the more I think about it, it's like that number 6 needs to start.
Well,
or be in the mix to start.
Well, not if you're taking a quarterback.
Oh, yeah.
Because like everything, like the rules, like listen, we can hate it, but the rules are different. You can take quarterbacks high in the top 10 and literally sit them. Like that'd be the plan.
If we took a quarterback, yes, we would be sitting them. But at 6, you're not getting. I mean, that's why to me, if they move to 3, that's like, oh boy, are they going to do it?
Probably get one at 6. Just a matter of like, do you like him at 6? Like, do you like Anthony Richardson or Will Levis enough? Like, I'm not asking you guys personally.
Yeah, no, I know.
It's like,
it's
if you like them enough, and you're just like, oh no, this is a nice developmental quarterback that we can have, not have to pay Jared Goff in a couple years. Yeah, you take him at 6.
And here's the best part: we get to wait and see. We're about a month out.
Great. It would be listen. We're talking about like, I know probably other people would be upset about it, especially if it meant like passing on Jalen Carter. And I say draft a quarterback in the essence that you can't get Jalen Carter, which again, that would require that like Will Anderson went to 3 and then Jalen Carter got picked by Seattle. I'd take a quarterback.
Hold on. Jay Book, this is funny. Shout out. He goes, freaking Richardson. I'd bet my daughter's boyfriend's single wide trailer rent that home stakes Richardson.
See, it's even better when you can gamble other people's stuff. So exactly. in light of what Jay Pooks, I bet Scott's beard.
No, we're not doing that.
That Brad Holmes takes a quarterback.
Gosh. No, we're gonna turn into Pride of Detroit. I'm gonna have to shave this thing. I don't know.
But okay, so John threw out an interesting one though at either 6 or 18, and I think it is in play, right? Offensive line is in play at either 6 or 18. Is wide receiver in play for you guys at either pick?
Not at 6 or 18.
I don't think.
Hold on. How deep? Again, I have not done my diligence. How deep is the class?
It's pretty deep. I mean, it's not like you're not getting a Jamar Chase if you take one at 6, right? Like whoever you take at 6 isn't Jamar Chase or Jalen Waddle or Amon-Ra, probably. Okay. Well, I don't know. Jackson Smith and Jigba is interesting.
Just to
given Brad's Holmes, given Holmes, it's Amon-Ra in the 4th. Like, granted, he's only done that once, and then he traded, to the 12 to get J-Mo. But like, I don't know. A lot of my decision making is being clouded by the fact that like he's so good at this. So like
that what? That Brad is so good at this.
Oh,
that Brad is so good at this. Like, so like we can sit here and talk about, should a wide receiver be on the board, and then Holmes is going to take one in the 4th, and it's going to be, like the next Amon-Ra or whatever, or just maybe not that good, but like certainly not 4th round talent.
Right. But that's why I ask it, because I mean, there have been people who have put together mock drafts and they get to 18 and they're looking at the wide receivers and they're just like, hey, yeah, why not get Jared Goff another weapon? And I don't hate it. I might hate some of the picks. Like, I don't know, I would prefer, I don't know. I typically like bigger wide receivers in the first place. I think you need probably security or just like an upgrade behind Josh Reynolds in the event that you ever just decide to move on from that. Because you already have J-Mo to kind of step into the place of DJ Chark as like wide receiver 1 down the line. And then you have Saint that's locked down your slot position. Josh Reynolds is the only kind of like leftover where it's like, you like having him because he's like reliable, but he's not great by any stretch of the imagination. He's just like, he's a good wide receiver 3. And you could potentially put yourself in a situation to have like a Cincinnati Bengals-esque wide receiver core where like 1 through 3 are like really good. Like where your 1 through 3 could be anybody's 1.
Yeah. I mean, especially if the Chark thing doesn't work out, right? There's that too. I wonder if that will have any impact. It probably will.
Probably will.
Right? So if we can't get him locked up, then yes, I could see them doing that again in the teens, wherever that might be, if he, doing his wizardry. But yeah, I mean, I would take the biggest, strongest wide receiver. We don't have a big, Chark's the tallest wide receiver?
Yeah, Chark's what, 6'2"?
Yeah,
6'3".
But I would take a larger wide receiver because we got
Jamo's also 6'2". Surprise!
We got speed for sure. Not that.
Wait, Jamo 6'2"?
Yeah, I was surprised by this. I thought he was like 6'1".
Yeah,
I mean it's an inch, but for some reason he was like 6'1".
It's an inch, but we'll take it.
Hey man, never discount the power of an inch. I will tell you that.
Inches are everywhere around us. The inches you need.
Speaking of J-Mo, real quick, social media, did you see him saying, I don't want to see any
in the dark
Lions fans?
In the dark, too.
Yeah,
J-Mo is such an enigma, man. I am both
I am curious.
So intrigued by him.
Yes, he's interesting. He's an interesting cat.
Because he seems like such a clown. Like that photo he took on the ATV and that other stuff, and then he just does this thing in the dark, haunting Aaron Rodgers' darkness retreats, talking about how he doesn't want any bandwagon fans. Yeah, dude, he's a. I would love to just have a conversation.
I mean,
by the way, Chark is 6'4".
6'4", yeah. So
yeah, no, but J-Mo he's interesting. I don't know if you guys follow him on Instagram. He has one of the most just normal everyday Instagram accounts that I've ever seen. Dude takes pictures just in random convenience stores, and I'm like,
oh really?
Yeah, the hell?
That's amazing.
I just be like, he's always next to a cooler, and I'm like, J-Mo, you make millions of dollars, you can't go to a nice dinner and take pictures out front of some fancy restaurant. I don't know. It's just it's funny to me.
I can't wait to see him this season too. I'm real excited. Real excited to watch him.
So quick question. Throw it back to Nico. Does the signing of David Montgomery change your Bijan Robinson?
Oh hell yes. What?
Okay.
Absolutely. You're still probably taking a running back somewhere.
This is a deep running back class, though. I mean, you could wait on that.
Yeah, I just don't know. That's the thing that's crazy because we don't know how big of a priority it is. And I honestly, a lot of people are saying that, obviously having David Montgomery means that Swift is probably gone next year. So you could draft a running back in round 2 or 3, and then you can kind of have Swift for this year, and then Swift can be gone. But I don't know, because I feel the fact that they let Jamal walk and kept Swift, kind of they're not sure if they want to let go of Swift. I think they would very much like to keep Swift if they can keep him at the right price. And so that makes me wonder how much draft capital then do you invest in a running back if you're believing that hey, next year we are going to try to make a competitive offer to Swift for him to stick around.
Yeah, and
I don't know what that looks like, but I don't. Yeah.
I don't think they let go of Swift easily. I think that partially, I'm not going to say Swift was the reason they hired Brett Fisher, because more people than Swift had injuries. But I think the turf, Brett Fisher, and their whole focus on injuries. And then honestly, what I would love to tweet at DeAndre Swift and tell him to get a hyperbaric chamber.
Why don't you do that then?
Because I'm not on Twitter. But honestly, Deshaun Elliott was kind of plagued by injuries his entire career. He bought a hyperbaric chamber because one of his teammates from the Ravens swears by it. So he did 2 hours every day in a hyperbaric chamber starting last offseason, and he had the healthiest year he's ever had in his entire career. So I don't know, Swift.
It might be worth an investment.
Go buy yeah, they're only $7,000.
Oh, yeah, only.
Yeah.
Only.
No, it's so This is how much of an anime nerd I am. The minute you said hyperbolic time or chamber, I immediately thought like Dragon Ball Z, and like they used to have like this chamber that they would put like that Goku went in and he was injured, and then like it took a certain amount of time and he was instantly healed. And I was like,
yes,
those don't really exist. And then I was like, but it would really be really cool if they did, because DeAndre could definitely use one of those.
He could.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, my brain went to Apocalypse from X-Men, the X-Men film.
Oh yeah,
he had his like pyramid in the pyramid. He had his chamber. So
real quick, shout out to Pride of Detroit. They responded to our the Instagram comments, and just not to be his Instagram RA, but he goes live at 2 a.m. a little too often for my liking. And I responded to at Pride of Detroit, you are now the official Instagram RA. Thank you. So
shout out to Jeremy from Pride of Detroit.
Yeah.
For those of you who weren't here, that is supposed to be our special guest for tomorrow.
Hey-o!
So if you guys get a double dose of the Questionable Podcast, and Jeremy will be here to answer our most questionable questions about.
And he's doing his research now to correct us tomorrow, I'm sure of it.
Oh, I can't wait to ask him about running backs in the first round.
Stop. We're not gonna spoiler.
No, I'm not gonna ask him about running backs in the first round.
He just said spoiler.
Quarterbacks at 6.
Oh my gosh. No. We got some good ones for him. So, but anyway, shout out again, Pride of Detroit. Thanks for the raid. That was great. Go ahead, Miko. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say, so like we were talking about, and we kind of got derailed, but just again, what the Lions are possibly doing in the draft. I'm gonna throw out something crazy here. Is it possible that the Lions do trade away some draft capital for an upgrade at quarterback?
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
And someone named Lamar Jackson.
I know where you're going with this.
Like, and I don't think do they do it. I don't mean do they do it.
Okay.
Is it the worst idea? Is it the worst use of draft capital?
I want to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to. Like, my gut is yes, but there's a part of me that's like, well,
because like.
It's intriguing. I just don't think they do. Like, that's.
I don't think they do it either.
That's it. It's intriguing.
But I've seen enough people that have been like literally like trying to bury this as like it's dumb. It doesn't make sense, and it's like, no, it kind of makes sense, especially like after these most recent moves. It makes even more sense to like just go all in and be like, we are going to go into the NFC, go into the season with the best quarterback in the NFC, not just in the NFC North, and with the best quarterback in the NFC, with a revamped defense, with some young pieces that we get in the draft, and then just like dare you to try to square up.
Yeah, I mean, that's yes. If it's Super Bowl or bust, yeah, you do that, but I don't see them doing it. Now, I just said he's been super aggressive, and what I think CBS reported that Lions were into, like, who knows what's going on, but it was like they gave 3 teams, and the Lions were one of those teams, according to CBS, but I don't trust.
I just saw a rumor today that like Minnesota is supposedly like poking around Lamar Jackson, and I was like, well, then I definitely don't want that.
Well, right.
Yeah. I want no parts of that.
No. Justin Jefferson.
Jefferson, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, no thanks.
No, thank you. But like, I don't know. Like, I think enough people have like been trying to bury this, and I'm like, are we really saying that the Lions shouldn't entertain a 25-year-old former unanimous MVP just because it's going to cost you more money? But like, it's not even like debatable. You would literally become like a Super Bowl favorite with Lamar Jackson quarterback. This is not like, and this has nothing to do with like what I think of Jared Goff. It has everything to do with like how great I think Lamar is. Like, the fact that we try to like spin this as though like it's not that big of an upgrade, like it is. Last time I checked, Jared Goff has never won an MVP, let alone a unanimous one, let alone won a unanimous MVP without even
without
10%,
having a team around him. Yeah.
Yes,
true.
without having an offensive line, without having a running back group, without having wide receivers that Jared Goff has ever had.
Hey, I agree with the argument. It makes sense, but
it's the money. It's like, listen, it is the money. It has nothing to do. Like, if it was, that is literally the people's only hang up. It's
Lamar
the money.
dies on the field every year. Okay.
He's been injured the last 2 years in the pocket.
Right. Yeah.
Like, people who want to go on this soliloquy like he gets hurt from running, he's been injured in the pocket. And you're putting him behind one of the best offensive lines in football. Get out of here.
Oh,
well,
man.
I think like what changes it for me is, as you said, Nico, like you're gonna have to pay, judging by the quarterback contracts that have happened this offseason. Jared Goff is going to command what, 43, 42 and a half, 43 roughly.
Don't let it. Like, listen, if Jared Goff gets you to the playoffs, add $5 million to that.
Okay, so then I think it was you who framed it this way, like Lamar right now, if you pull the trigger, would probably cost you 50. And like, if you're getting that much of an upgrade for Lamar, like that of Goff to Lamar in terms of just talent level, for only what then at that point, like $4 million extra a year, 3 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, it's kind of hard to argue. I don't know. Even I would have a hard time trying to poke holes in that.
And like I said, I'm sure like the three of us and most people in the chat are in agreement. We do not think the Lions would do this. But the fact that like I've seen people be like the Lions shouldn't even entertain it or that they shouldn't even be trying to talk to Lamar, to me is ludicrous.
Yeah.
Like if he's available and the Ravens would actually trade him, you need to be asking every possible question you can just to see what it would take to get him here.
If you're not thinking like a villain.
Thank you, Karina.
Karina agrees. She totally did. Argument
if you're
over.
Not entertaining the idea, then you're not thinking like a villain. And if Brad Holmes' hooded sweatshirt is any indication, you got to be thinking like a villain. And no, I don't see them going Lamar because philosophy. I think both Holmes and Campbell think like you don't buy a Penei Sewell, you draft a Penei Sewell. Like you don't buy Lamar Jackson, you draft Lamar Jackson.
That's why he loves Richardson.
Yeah, the only caveat with that though is like if you buy Lamar Jackson, you're probably buying a Super Bowl. I think that's the only argument that I would have with it is like you buy a Penei Sewell, there's no guarantee you're buying a Super Bowl. You buy a Lamar Jackson,
yeah, that's true.
You're putting a nice down payment on a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
down payment on the bowl. Oh man!
No, like I said, like
all right,
should they be like looking into it? Yes.
Yeah, they kick the tires.
No, probably not.
Right. Will they draft Richardson though?
If they had the opportunity to, that's Gion's. Hey, you draft.
That's what I'm just saying.
That's
what I just said. That's you drafting.
That's the guy.
You know, that's if that's what they're doing, they trade up to 3 to get him.
I mean, and again, people keep saying that like, hey, it's 50 million or it's this, it's that. You don't know what the hell Lamar would actually take to get out of Baltimore at this point. Like Baltimore has yanked him around so much.
Yeah, he's.
You don't think he'd be like, look, just get me the hell up out of here. We can work on the numbers later. Get me out.
Yeah,
I'd like to go now. I don't know.
Like Baltimore might sit there and be like, we're not letting him go. He might sit there and be like, I'm not playing.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens because clearly not a lot of movement, and it's just weird to me. So,
yeah, for a player of his caliber,
yeah it's just weird. Like, yeah, I don't want to get into conspiracies or anything like that, but
you don't want to get into collusion.
The guaranteed money conspiracy, like, you know, owners not wanting to guarantee it. I don't know. Anyways, neither here nor there. What else, you guys? We've hit. It's been a long one.
Yeah, it's been about an hour and a half. I don't think we gotta keep the people too much longer. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow with Jeremy, and we'll have more Lions topics. So I think we can free the people.
Yeah, I gotta go anyway. So
all right, we'll
free the Gian.
We'll free the Gian.
Everyone knows when I leave, the show's over. So.
Oh my gosh. We're talking about the Lions. All right, yeah. Anything else? I think that's it for us, guys. Right, John, Miko, we're good.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm good.
We're good. All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping by. Thanks, Pride of Detroit, for the raid. Appreciate that. Little noise distraction for 15 minutes. That's hysterical. We appreciate all those that subscribed and followed on Twitch. We really appreciate that as we're trying to grow this Twitch channel. So thank you, and thank you again. Again, we appreciate all your comments, all your support, and participation, and all those on YouTube too. Thank you. Please, yes, reminder, tomorrow, special guest, J-Dog. Real journalism will arrive tomorrow at 9 o'clock, Miko?
Yeah, more than likely. That's when I'm available.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. He said he'll try to prepare. Okay. All right. But thank you all. Shout out to the fam, the crew, friends, you guys, everyone. Thank you for everything. Miko?
Yeah, shout out to, again, everybody on Twitch, everybody on YouTube. Appreciate Pride of Detroit for the raid. Again, for those of you that are on YouTube, please be sure to hit that like button on your way out. We appreciate it. It helps us so much as we continue to try to, again, just grow our channel and try to provide really good Lions content to this fan base, because it's a very passionate fan base. So, yeah, that's it for me. Shout out to my family. Love them. Love you guys.
Gian.
Well, thanks to the you guys and the for always being so prepared.
The inches.
Hey man, that's a nickname that I hope doesn't stick.
Just because you said that, it's over now.
I know.
The inch.
But no, thanks to my wife, my daughter, and
yes.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard.
Shout out to Karina for helping make Miko's point.
She's chiming in at very key moments for emphasis. Yeah.
All right, you guys. We appreciate you. Everybody. Thank you. Stay positive. And this is a Questionable Podcast out.